the Hight Today show. Here we go.
Like that blunt. I have a joint in here somewhere.
I'm Victor Martinez Jr. and we are here with Shelley Peebles
Hello.
of, was it Nugs magazine?
Fat Nugs magazine.
Fat Nugs magazine.
Mm-hmm.
The writer for Fat Nugs magazine. We met at the Hight Tonight show here. Had you been here before?
I had gone to a show previously, like prior to South by Southwest, but y'all are some late night people. And when it's like a work night or a weeknight, it's hard for me to stay up super late.
I really appreciate you staying
But
out with us.
it.
Yes, I take some naps in between the guests sometimes. I understand. Yeah, midnight's hard, but it's like we close it out and we hotbox the shit out of it out there. So they don't, they don't want any other shows like, smelling like weed. So we usually close out the night. But I really appreciate, Creek's been our home here for the last couple of years now. And I love putting on a good show for him, and it's been growing more and more. And and so now we've been doing this for, I don't know how many episodes now, like maybe in the teens here. And I wanted to come have you on. We were talking about it earlier. What do you call it as a gun?
Oh yeah, so I'm a certified ganjier.
Ganjier.
Yes.
Wow, and explain that for us.
So it's basically like a cannabis sommelier. So instead of assessing wine, we're assessing cannabis, and we're grading it. We're looking at a lot of different aspects of the cannabis, how it was grown, what the flavor experience is, profile, and just we go through a systematic assessment protocol. And like we're able to rate or score the cannabis according to all these different criteria.
Because everyone knows there's good weed and bad weed.
Right.
But you say it in like the most eloquent way possible.
Oh, thank you.
Right? That's the idea, right?
Yes. Yeah. I think, a lot of people probably don't take into consideration a lot of those things. And so they just know if they like it or not. Right.
Right.
But then there are all of these other different aspects involved, and you can smoke some bad weed and it can really like mess you up. So,
and all those little things actually they change it. The terpenes involved, the way it's grown, the season, every little thing, even, two seeds are no alike, even from the same plant, right? Yep. Things affect them the way they're cured. And so people, they might come across a certain strain that like, they get too paranoid or something like that.
Yep.
Or something that's like, doesn't have as much THC, is a little more CBD based. It's just for relaxing your body and whatnot.
And some of them can be a blend, like if you're getting a 1-to-1 ratio of CBD and THC, that's a little different experience.
See, when it comes to this stuff, it's like I could go so deep into it. It fascinates me just because it's this subject. Like if it was anything else, like just plants alone, I really don't care about.
Right.
Like I don't know about blooming, or I kill most plants. Like I'm not good at it. But like with just weed, it all of a sudden it's not like I'm not thinking about it like anything else. Like it's something that's its own thing.
Yeah.
And it opens up a world to all those things because they do relate. Like every plant has something like that. They have regular roses I think have terpenes in them. Like
all kinds of plants. I mean, you're like myrcene is a big terpene that we talk about in cannabis. But it's found in mangoes. So,
right. And those help each other.
Yeah.
That's
totally
always
beneficial.
The old wives' tale. Like you eat some mangoes before you smoke, you'll be like, it's a nicer high or more effective high or something like that. I always heard that even growing up. What got you interested in all this?
Well, I grew up in Austin. My parents were hippies, but not the kind of hippies that smoke weed. So, and my mom was a teacher, and I was taught to be afraid of weed. So I didn't really try it until college. And then when I became a mom, I quit all of that. And I was like, afraid to use cannabis. And then I went through like a really rough divorce and was having some health problems, and I couldn't figure out what was wrong with me. And I had tried all kinds of different pharmaceuticals. The doctors were giving me like steroids and muscle relaxers to fix this problem that I was having with my shoulder. Well,
you were in pain.
I was in a lot of pain and I couldn't figure out what's going on. Finally got an x-ray and the doctor was like, you might want to think about a different career. So I'm a dental hygienist.
Right.
And it was really hard to continue doing dental hygiene. But
like your arms, like a lot of like movement like that.
Like pain in my forearm, numbness in my fingers. It was really hard to function.
Mm-hmm. And you need to. I mean, it's very like sensitive. You know, working with mouths and whatnot.
But it was even harder to function on all of the pills they were giving me.
Mm-hmm.
So I finally just I was starting to take like more and more and more of the medication. And then I noticed that it wasn't really doing the trick. It wasn't really working. So I quit taking it altogether. I went on a girls' trip to Colorado, got some gummies, and slept for 8 hours.
Perfect.
And I was like, well, whatever this is what I need. So I kind of really quickly got over the fear of anybody, of like getting in trouble for using this medicine to get rid of whatever pain I was having, because nothing else was working.
And at that time, I mean, weed was a little less legal than it is now. I mean, mostly it's Delta 8 and whatnot, and it's all just legal flower, but it's definitely, I mean, I don't know what time that was, a couple of years ago. It was like, it's different now.
Yeah. So now we have a medical program in Texas.
No kidding.
It's not as expanded, I would say, as some other states, but we do have medical cannabis here. And so there's a lot of different conditions that you can, use to get qualified. So it's not super hard to get, a medical card. It doesn't transfer to other states though. Right. So you can.
I'm surprised they have it here.
Yeah. Yeah.
And so you rediscovered gummies and then you came over here and then, well, I mean, what made you decide to like get so invested?
Well, so the gummies that I tried were actually hash rosin gummies. And I'm kind of one of these people that I like to make everything from scratch. Mm-hmm. I want to learn everything about it. So I started dissecting it and I was like, okay, well, I need to learn how to make hash. And so once I discovered online resources, I found Frenchy Cannoli, who is a famous hash maker out in California. He's French, but he has YouTube videos out. So I was watching all of his YouTube videos and just memorizing everything, like learning about this process of making hash.
Right. And there's a couple different ways, right?
Yeah, there's a couple of different ways.
And basically it's what you take all the parts that make you the highest, like the like it's the little trichomes,
called, yep.
And you can extract them through I've seen dry sifting, I think they call it. Yep. Or I mean, the good old fashioned way is that these guys would be out in the field and they would just be touching those plants with their hands.
Mm-hmm. That's charas.
Yeah, and then they just peel it off their fucking hands.
Yeah,
and it's this big chunk of black. It's like a
sticky tar. It's like tar.
Stuff. And they would take that and they would throw it on top of a hookah or something and get fucked up for days. Yep. And that's still pretty much how they do it, Yep. And then mix it with tobacco because it's strong, right?
There's a lot of that.
It lasts you a long time. And it doesn't look like normal weed. It looks like a lump of coal or something
it does,
like that.
totally.
And it sticks to everything.
Yeah.
And it's kind of like the stuff that's left over whenever like a lot of weed gets pressed or whatever. Mm-hmm. And so that's the finest part of it too, right? Like that's it. I mean, everything else is just plant, I guess. Like it just is. I mean, it's.
So you're really just taking all of the terpenes, all of the cannabinoids. They're all contained in that little trichome head, which is super tiny microscopic thing.
And like there's ways to do it. I've seen people use like dry ice or something like that.
Yep, I've seen dry ice. Dry ice is a little bit more irritating, and so you tend to get a lot more broken heads, which you don't want. You want the heads to stay intact if you can.
And that this really small, like microscopic, they look like bulbs, right?
Yes.
And the idea is to get them off of there as softly and like whole as possible,
right?
Because those things combust and then they turn into what you inhale and whatnot, right?
Yeah. So you have to be real careful about when you're harvesting. So if you harvest at the right time, you're harvesting it where those are about to fall off. And really, like Frenchy Cannoli does all the old school methods, which is ice water sieving. Mm-hmm. That has developed over time. But that the idea is that you're shaking this ripe fruit from a tree, and those trichomes are getting sieved through micron mesh bags. So depending on the size of the micron, you can trap, certain microns.
And that's what's like happening in a keef collector, right? Yeah, all that stuff is falling to the bottom.
And the screens are different sizes. So,
and like what the smaller the better, right? That's like the finer stuff.
There's like a good range. So like 25 is pretty small, and they usually use those for like edibles. Usually a good range is like 190, I would say, to 70.
And the more meticulous you are about this, the cleaner it comes out. And like the nicer it looks. Like you show me some stuff, it's like buttery.
Yeah.
And it gets to the point where it's like, it's white, you know, it's like got no color almost at all. But you're still looking for some type of color usually, like a little tint of yellows.
The color thing is debatable. I think there's a lot of people that's what the market wants. And so that's what people produce more of because that's what people will buy.
I mean, I've seen all varieties.
But yeah, I've seen so many different varieties. I saw one that a friend of mine made that was looked like sticky tar. It smelled like a just delicious perfume. I mean, it was amazing. So it just depends on the hash maker, but it also goes back to the material that you're putting into it. So they say, you know, fire in, fire out. It really goes back to the farmer. How they're growing it, you know, how they're harvesting it.
And they all do it so differently.
So differently.
I mean, you know, there's some that like pay more attention to the growing process or like, you know, pay more attention to like the making it look a certain way, you know, like making them as fat as possible, like just big old, like they look like they're on steroids or something, like really crazy fat. They look like genetically modified or something, right?
Yeah.
Like it's getting to that point now where like, what is this stuff?
And then it goes back to the cultivar too. So what are the genetics of the plant itself? How does it typically manifest? You know, when you do grow it out, what's the climate? There's also this thing that we talk about in the Ganjier program called terroir, which is like kind of like grapes, where they're grown and what region, the soil that they're in, and how the flavor of the environment imparts itself to the actual plant itself.
Right. Like, you know, original weed was up in mountains or something like that. And that affected it. The climate, the height, the dirt there, you know, the things that you can only find there, right?
Yeah.
You can't even recreate them, right?
Right.
That's interesting how that happens.
It is, and I've been able to witness that, which is really cool too, because you can literally taste like a papaya grown in Northern California, and if you smoke a papaya that's grown indoors, it's gonna taste a lot different.
It's got like no soul or something. I don't know.
There is some of that.
Yeah.
But, you know, and that's also an opinion of different people. Different people have different opinions.
That's, you know, that's a big old world. So, all right, you get into the hash and you learn from Frenchy Cannoli. I think I've heard of him. And so you get deep into that.
Yep.
And then you decide what to join. Is it a class or?
Well, so what happened? I was like, I've got to meet this guy because, like, I feel like I could just sit and have a conversation with him about life, you know, because this guy, like, he's just full of soul and spirit and just a happy person. Like, I just wanted to sit and talk to him. Well, I found out he was an instructor in the Ganjier program, and I found this program because I was following Frenchy Cannoli. So then I was like, I've got to get into this program. What do I have to do? And they were closed. The entries were closed. And I just kept harassing them.
And where were these held?
They were in Northern California. Oh, okay. So there's an online part of the program, and then there's an in-person part of the program. So you do a lot of online stuff, and then you go in person and do a live training. And I do farm tours, and we go through the assessments, and then we take an exam. You can schedule the exam separately. I just happened to schedule it in the same week, which I was like, if I have to come back, it's not a big deal because this place is amazing. I don't know if you've ever been to Northern California.
It sounds like a weed college.
Oh God, it's like a weed mecca. It is a weed college, yeah. And now they've moved it to this campus. It's like up in the mountains in Northern California. It's like 250 acres.
I'm imagining, like Hogwarts.
No,
but it's like they're flying around on blunts.
Well, because the campus itself that it's at now, it used to be an old like dojo for training like kung fu or something.
Wow.
Which is kind of cool. But yeah, it's got a lot of good energy. If you ever go there, it's just a very spiritual place.
And so you went there and you studied and you became a ganjier. Wow.
Yep.
And so from there, you decided you'd become a writer for weed?
Well, it kind of ended up, I thought the way to like help everybody else was to open up a dispensary. So
the dream, yeah.
Yeah, being in New Braunfels and being told I had to reinvent myself and my career, and as a single parent, I was like, I'm gonna get into cannabis.
Great plan.
Small town, all that good stuff. I got my Ganji certification. I put it on my license plate and I drove that thing around town.
Wow.
It was funny too, because you'll see people kind of like look as you drive by, and I'm like, oh yeah, they know what's up. And then other people that just don't care or don't even notice it.
And then it started catching on.
It started catching on. I am the one of, I think, 3 or 4 maybe ganjis in Texas now. But when I first started doing it, I was like the second person, but the first female.
And so you take this and, all this new information and you're certified now. It opens new doors.
It definitely does. But also it's been more of a, I guess, personal journey for me. And I've discovered just a lot of things about myself with this journey that I've taken with this plant. And in the process of doing that, I've discovered that I really like writing. I just started telling my story a little bit more. And Dustin at Fat Nugs magazine was very gracious and like giving me a platform to do so. And I thought, because like I started kind of just talking about it more on social media, and I had a lot of people DMing me and asking me questions and wanting like advice, so I felt like it was important to share my story so it would help other people as well. And then being able to reach that many more people with Fat Nugs magazine has been really helpful.
You gave me one. I wish I had brought one today.
Oh yeah,
they're so cool.
I think I have one.
I love the pictures on there. They're gorgeous. I don't read too much, but like,
but it's pretty to look at, And I think as a community, as far as culture goes, it's a good way to share that with other people. It's a conversation piece, and it's something that kind of stirs up a conversation. Like, and then you have that. I like the community vibe that it gives. I think cannabis has is a good vehicle for creating more of that community.
Yeah, I've always said, it's not like I'm not addicted. I stop all the time.
Yeah.
Like I take breaks, I go to my mom's house. I won't smoke for like 3 days or something like that.
Yeah.
But whenever I am, especially like whenever it comes to like sitting down, having a conversation like this, it always helps. Like, it really does. It's a nice, like, I don't know if it's a big part of it, but I won't have the same conversation if I wasn't like sitting and smoking with someone. You know, like there's something about it. It's a nice common thing. And I don't know if it opens you up per se, but I've had some of the deepest conversations over a blunt. Right?
Yeah, no. And like, it's a good way to get to know somebody and, kind of get on their level. And there's, it kind of breaks down those walls or barriers that we put up,
So you've been writing with them for how long now?
A little over a year. Yeah.
And you've been getting to do interviews with a lot of cool people.
Yeah, I got a press pass to South by Southwest.
Right. Did I see you with the Migos? Is that who it
with
was?
The who?
Was it Migos or no? Was it some rappers?
Gorilla Zoe.
Oh shit!
Yeah,
right there on the red carpet.
Yes.
No kidding.
That was really fun. Yeah. So I feel like writing has just, cannabis is kind of the vehicle that has allowed me to explore these other things of aspects of my life and my personality that I enjoy. I think I got into dental hygiene because I didn't know what to do.
Right.
I have a marketing degree. I didn't want to do that.
It's good to know that.
Yeah. But
absolutely.
But I think dental hygiene. Oh, look, there it is. I did dental hygiene because I think somebody else wanted me to do it. Mm-hmm. And I'm doing this for myself.
Because you love it.
Because I love it.
I love this. I mean, I love the whole field. Yeah, I want to be a ganjier like you. That's so fucking cool.
You should. Yeah. We need more of them.
Yeah, I'm going to do that. What, do you get a card or something?
I do.
Oh, wow. That's so fucking cool. So what do you have? What's been going on since then?
Well, I had the dispensary in New Braunfels.
What was it called?
Flower Moon Botanicals.
And that was yours, huh?
That was mine. I had a business partner, but it didn't work out with us. She was not as much on board with cannabis as I was. And I think that kind of put some strain on our relationship. But overall, we just realized that we shouldn't work together and move on. And then when I moved to Austin, it was really hard to kind of like manage both because I was trying to, like dental hygiene got me back to Austin. So I was trying to focus on that. So it was really hard to do all of it. And, but I kind of just shut it down.
When was that? When was that?
Last year. Mm-hmm. Yeah, it was when I moved.
Wow. And you've been so busy since then.
I've been so busy since then. Yeah, just with my job and writing. So I'm doing both and trying to figure out how to monetize it because it's, breaking into, I think, a different field is really challenging when you're an adult.
Yeah.
And you have adult responsibilities.
Yeah, I know. I understand. We're both parents.
Yeah.
That's another thing about it. Not too many. I mean, it's breaking a stigma of that. My parents, my mom's a similar way. She doesn't like drugs at all. She thinks, Spanish women like marihuanos, they don't like that shit. It's really, it's all just a blanket, just like bad idea. But I'm trying to break that. I try to make it look like, I'm paying my bills and, I'm a normal functioning person. I try to put on a good show, So what else do you have planned coming up?
Well, I'm actually writing a book.
Wow.
Yeah. So I've been through a lot of therapy with the divorce and everything. And my therapist was like, you really could write a book about this. And I was like, maybe I should. Mm-hmm. So I started a blog and I've been posting a lot of the articles that I've written for Fat Nugs on there. And I have some stuff coming out about my experience at South by. And then during South by I had the infused dinner. Right.
Yeah. I wanted to talk more about that.
Yeah. So, that was
let's go through each plate. You said it was 7 courses?
And 5 courses.
5. Okay.
Yeah. So, but everything was curated by a chef. His name is Michael Weinstein. Mm-hmm. He's out of Dallas. He does infuse. He's called the Rebel Chef. And I really like the fact because I'm such a foodie. I love food. Mm-hmm. And I just knew I've had some of his stuff before and I've met him before, but I just knew that he was going to be able to take this to the next level. But when I had a conversation with him about how he does his infusions. So he gets everything tested and he does know the grower specifically, he has that farm to farm or farm to person relationship, mm-hmm. which I wanted. And so he kind of brought that into the whole thing. And the grower came down for the dinner, which was really cool.
Wow. And so he already does this in Dallas.
Yeah.
Okay. He has like a weed restaurant out there or something?
No, he just, he's like a private chef and he'll go and do dinners for people. And he has his own line of topicals. Mm-hmm. And I think he does like salsas that are really good too.
Did he have salsa that night?
Mm-hmm.
Oh.
Yep.
Yummy.
And he makes these caramels that are really good.
Was that dessert?
Well, those were in the goodie bags.
Oh, okay.
So for dessert, we had something that was, God, I can't even remember. It was.
You're probably gone by then.
It was all amazing. We were high as shit. By the end of it, we were like.
5 courses. That's like appetizer and then like snacks and then
he calls it a amuse-bouche or something like that. That's like the appetizer of the appetizer, mm-hmm. and then you have the appetizer.
Wow.
And then something with beef tenderloin that was amazing.
And like how does he soak the meat in weed? How does he do that?
It was like a chimichurri, mm-hmm. like a little sauce. So it's like herbs, but also with the oil from the infusion that he made.
And he does it so well, but you can't taste any of that.
Oh no, not at all. Like
that's the best.
Just...
I mean, some edibles you can taste it.
Yeah.
Like immediately, like, oh God, there's weed in this.
Like I make edibles to like feel it. Mm-hmm. So if I make my own edibles, you're gonna taste the weed.
I've had several times. I've done it. 1,000 milligram brownie. Mm-hmm. Oh my gosh. Mm-hmm. It's just something the size of your palm.
Yeah.
And they say break it up into like 6 pieces or something.
Yeah.
I'm like, I'm gonna eat this whole fucking thing. And you pass out. It's like 3 days. Sleep for 3 days.
Oh yeah,
groggy. No. Everything's just like hazy. I mean, you feel like weed is coming out of your pores or something.
Oh yeah. I've definitely overdone it on my dosages before. Mm-hmm. So one time I had made like Fruity Pebbles treats. And I had cut them up into squares. I put them in my fridge. And my friend was house sitting for me when I was out of town one weekend. And
oh no.
She texted me frantic saying, oh my God, how strong are these? Like, she's like, I just took a bite of one and I feel like I need to go to the hospital.
Because you got a tolerance.
Yeah.
And these are hash.
Yeah.
And she's probably like a normal person. Yeah, nothing like that.
She's very, very, definitely a different endocannabinoid system, but like very, very sensitive to THC.
Yeah, for a normal person, it doesn't do nearly as much. I mean, I smoke closer to an eighth a day or something like that.
Yeah.
Like on a, if like that's on a, like leaning back, if I'm going heavy, quarter or something, right?
Sure.
And if you're doing edibles, that's all different. That spikes your tolerance way up. So you do 1 or 2, it immediately starts building up.
Uh-huh.
But I mean, yeah, just doing it out of the blue like that, even one bite.
Yep.
I mean, how much is in there? How much do you use?
Well, so it just depends. You can mix it up too, which like I like experimenting with all of this stuff. So
yeah.
But I did get a little T-check thing that tests the potency of your infusions. And then you have your little calculator. You just do the math, plug everything in. And I mean, you also kind of have to know the potency of the strain, but you can kind of wing it and guess that. I always usually around like 25%, usually 25%. So based on that, you can kind of figure out a little bit dosage wise, like kind of a ballpark.
Right. Cause like throwing, so the first edible I ever made was, they call them firecrackers, right? You know what I'm talking about? So I was in high school and
that can be dangerous.
It was, I the first time I tried, I smoked out of an apple. And like a lot of people, you don't feel it. You didn't feel it. I didn't feel it. I was smoking. I smoked. Nothing happened. I was like, I was smoking with someone. They're like, you don't feel it? I was like, no. Like, okay, well, then if you want to feel it, then you're probably going to want an edible. I was like, all right, let's go ahead and just go fucking to an edible because I want to feel something. And so we had what was left of it. We smoked like one nug out of that little pipe, out of the apple pipe. You put you take the stem out and you poke a little hole, it was a nice green apple, but didn't do nothing. So we toss that, take the rest, an eighth. You grind up an eighth is like to a fine powder, as fine as powder as possible, like just like double grind it or something like that. Mm-hmm. And it's just like dust, and then you sprinkle the whole eighth on graham cracker, whole fat peanut butter. That's the trick. Whole fat, not normal peanut butter, but like some type of like fancy peanut butter that's got like, oils and stuff in it.
Oh yeah.
And you put all that in there. You put the whole thing, you mix it on there and you're supposed to toast it a little bit, to like release it, I guess, like.
So decarbing it.
Yeah. Decarbing it. And then you cook it and that's pretty much it. And then you eat it. And I ate the whole fucking, it tastes like, it's terrible. It was so nasty. It was dry. It was a little burnt. It was really dry. And I was like, oh, this tastes like, like weed and peanut butter.
Oh.
Like just like it tastes like a grinder and peanut butter.
Yeah.
And took probably like an hour and a half. And we went to the mall and I started feeling it. And then like before I knew it, it was like my consciousness was slipping back into a tunnel. And my first time ever being really high, I could see behind my own head. Yeah, like this perspective, like third person perspective for like 8 hours, just walking around the mall, like Grand Theft Auto. Like you could see yourself like moving and ate so much. I went to a buffet. You know, went to a buffet and I remember the buffet, the food, I remember like grabbing the food and putting it on my plate and like I could see it was like I was watching myself eat. And like it was like a really nice well cut movie. It was like a
Nice.
Scorsese movie or something like
Yes.
that. You know, it's like how they make food look so good. Like it looked like that in my eyes. And it tasted like it had never tasted before. Like it was like,
Yeah.
wow, food tasted like I savored everything, but I also like couldn't feel full. You know, that helps a lot with that.
Yep.
So you just eat and eat and eat. And you just keep thinking about like, oh, it tastes amazing. I just want to taste it again. And
Like, what else can I put together?
Yeah. And then like, what else can I experience? That was the thing too, is like I was listening to music and I just never appreciated all these different like sounds before. You know, I had like some headphones on. I was like walking around the mall and it was Kanye West. I mean, you know, back then he wasn't so controversial. and I was like appreciating this album like I never had before. You know, I would like, close my eyes and there was like a music video, you know. And then I saw a movie and I, you know, I ate all the popcorn before the movie even came on. And I ended up passing out before the movie was over. But I remember seeing some of it and thinking like, this is amazing.
Yeah.
You know, like you could tell what good acting is in a different way or something like that. You're more sensitive.
Yes,
maybe.
definitely.
Or you appreciate things more. I don't know, in that state. But yeah, that was my experience. So but you know, that's like one of the worst, crudest ways to do it, I think. Like it was so gross. I wouldn't recommend it. I bet
well, see, I think there's ways you can make it taste good.
Mm-hmm.
And that's part of like the process of figuring all of those tricks
right. Yeah.
out.
So that's the idea is like, you know, an eighth of flour in an edible is different than like an eighth of hash.
Right.
Right. Or like, or maybe, you know, you use oil or what are the other ways they have it? I forgot the different names for it.
Well, one of the I like Skittles, and so I got a freeze dryer because I was like I wanted to make hash because you have to have a freeze dryer really in Texas to make hash. So I got a freeze dryer, and I was like, well, how do I get the weed into the Skittles? How do I get the hash into the Skittles?
Right.
So figuring out that process was fun and
What'd
interesting.
You do?
So you can take the hash, you decarb it, mix it with a little bit of coconut oil, coat your Skittles, and then you can toss them in like some like can of sugar. So you can then that's a whole nother thing. You got to make can of sugar, which is a bit of a process as well. But then you put those two together and you get some pretty good.
Yeah, that'll fuck you
Skittles,
up. Yeah. Oh man, I can only imagine. Oh, I love those.
They're dangerous.
So that's the thing about it is that no matter what it is you're doing, it seems like you have to combine it to a fat. You know, that's just like the best way, right? And it combines really well with that.
Yeah.
I have a joke about that. Like, you know, I think there's a lot of like I'm fat, right? So like there's a lot of weed in me. I think, you know, I think it's coated. Like I've stopped. I swear that I'd be at the gym completely sober, and like once I really start like going at it, I know they say you get high off of just working out.
Yeah, and I know people that get high to work out, and they claim that they have a better workout, you know, when they get high.
I don't know what it is.
I mean, I haven't tried it.
No, but... yeah, yeah. I guess I get all heavy and sluggish sometimes.
Yeah. I mean, I could see how Jack Herrera, for instance, would be a good like pre-workout.
That's the thing.
Heck yeah.
So that's the thing about those strains is like, I mean, you get a good sativa and some coffee, you know, some like espresso, and like, you know, you could like fix your life. You could fucking do taxes.
Hey, you could sit in traffic.
Yeah.
You know,
organize things. You know, yeah.
Deal with people.
It affects you that way.
Oh yeah.
Or as opposed to like something that's too heavy, you know, and you won't necessarily want to do that. You're going to want to go home and sleep. You know?
Exactly.
But yeah, no. Yeah. I definitely want to try that Jack. I want to see how, cause like it's still the middle of the day. So
yeah, no, it's a good get shit done.
Yeah,
strain.
That's what I go for.
Yeah.
Yeah. It's almost like crack or something like that. These
that
things,
one, yeah.
The right ones.
The right ones, yeah. Sour diesel is another good one.
Like if you don't hone it, that's where you will start slipping into like paranoia and shit like that. But I always tell people like, hey man, it's okay. Just go with the fear. You know, that's what you paid for.
Yeah.
You know, it hasn't really affected me like that in a long time anyway. You know, I don't know what it is. I mean, maybe because I do have a high tolerance.
Well,
now.
That's when it's like, well, maybe I should take a little break, get the tolerance level down.
Mm-hmm.
I think I'm getting to that point. So that is another project that I'm going to be working on. Is I am going to take a tolerance break.
Wow.
But I'm going to write about it. So
Definitely.
I'm going to do like a 30-day break. I'm gearing up for it. I haven't taken a break in like a long time.
Right. I mean, since I've been smoking, the longest I've gone is maybe a year. Yeah. If that, like not straight. I mean, just like, here and there, but like the biggest chunks are like a month or so, I guess, or a couple weeks. But lately, just
it's
like
enough
days.
to notice a difference when you go back to it. But definitely wanting to just experience it and see what that does for me. But I have one of the instructors in the program. Her name's Amanda Ryman. She has a business called Personal Plants, and she's a doctor, so she deals with more of the aspects of like your like the mindset of cannabis. So like mindful consumption. Mm-hmm. So she's going to help me through that, give me some tips and tricks. I think there's no one way to do it. If you're taking a tolerance break, you can go cold turkey, you can ease into it, you can cut back slowly. You could also do just CBD. Right. And that'll give you some benefits as well, which, I might do that. But
yeah, because you still have issues. I mean, you still have like some pain and
whatnot.
Yeah.
So, and really the biggest thing is sleep for me. I think that that is like the if you don't get good sleep, everything else just goes to crap.
That wouldn't be healthy.
No.
Yeah, and it's essential that way.
Yeah,
because I mean, the alternative, you'd go to something like over the counter, and then you'd get too groggy, and it affects everything else. All those things have side effects, and they're just not necessarily natural.
Right.
This is the closest thing to that.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah. Okay. Definitely. Yeah. I can't wait to hear about that. That's cool.
Yeah.
And so you're going to be doing that, and you're writing a book as well. Do you have a title in mind for the book?
Yeah. So I'm going with The Girlfriend's Guide to Ganja.
Wow. I like that. That's badass.
So the thought behind that is that I am guiding others into their journey, because it really just kind of figuring out what works best for you, because we're all different. We all have an endocannabinoid system, but it's unique to you. Mm-hmm. And obviously what works for me isn't going to work for somebody else.
Right. That's the thing is like, I'm always scared to recommend it necessarily. Yeah. And you got to be careful. There are, to be honest, in Vancouver, I went out there and I got to hosting, I was just a kid, and I got to hosting a weed open mic, and they gave me like a buffet of edibles. Yeah. So, and at the end of the show, I got to keep a lot of them, and I was just a kid. I didn't know how to cook. It got to the point where I was eating nothing but weed and not any normal food, and that's not recommended, not for a growing mind, not for anybody trying to remain sane. It's whenever you stop feeling the highs, whenever you worry, Yeah. And then you get like in a weird manic state. You get to the weird point where you're too high and you don't know how high you are. You don't even know what weird thoughts are. My fucking Facebook posts were in riddles. It was not, I was so deep, I stopped sleeping altogether. I was like meditating and shit and like oming to myself. Like that's the time when you start taking a break. Yeah. Because whenever you're eating like 100% pure weed and you're not feeling it anymore and you're acting weird.
Maybe time to
and like that's
change things up.
You don't want to burst your bubble, and it's not necessarily weed's fault. You can abuse anything, you know?
Yeah. Oh yeah, for sure. And I think so with Fat Nugs, we have a saying that all cannabis consumption is medicinal. And at first I was like, well, is it? But yeah, no, it is.
You got to respect it.
You do.
Yeah. You got to go into it thinking like, especially for whenever I do the harder things.
Yeah.
Like I go into it with like a purpose or like a goal, or like, I'll do acid quarterly, and that's like, I want to maybe, I want to go into this like with a certain issue in mind that I want to like hash out, right? Like emotionally or something like that.
Yeah.
And so that's like, you hope to find that during this trip.
Right.
But, this is something that you do so regularly. It's like you forget that. Like this is also very powerful. You know,
Yes.
Like, you can't just be doing it like sipping like water or something like that.
Yeah. So like setting an intention or I think that's a good thing to be. That makes it more mindful.
And then you savor it, and you're like, why am I smoking all the time?
What am I dealing with right now that I need to address?
Right. You know, and it's not necessarily like this is the best thing to be medicating with or whatever. It's just like there's worse things. You know, I could be drinking too much, you know, like I could be just like a grouch or something. I don't know.
Well, I think, a lot of us probably drank too much during 2020.
Oh, yeah.
It was just too easy to get alcohol delivered to your house.
I remember. Yeah, they made margaritas. You could just walk around and shit. They didn't care anymore.
Well, and I recently went on like a pretty long sabbatical from alcohol, but I don't think that would have been possible without cannabis.
They go good together sometimes. I like sometimes a little crossfaded here and there.
Yeah, sometimes they can really counter each other, and it's not good. I think it depends on how you combine those things as well. But yeah, no, sometimes they go together.
Yeah, I've had a few weed alcohol drinks.
Ooh,
yeah, they're interesting.
Yeah,
they're trying. You know, everyone's just experimenting. Just put weed in anything.
Well, and honestly, I'd rather have a weed infused drink than a alcoholic beverage. A lot of times.
Yeah. No, I
don't have a hangover the next day.
I'll go for like a shot and a beer, and then like 1 or 2 blunts, and that'll be the night. You know, at home, if I'm not driving, I got some Everclear. I got 180 proof, hardcore shit, dry up your throat, kill anything inside.
That's what I'll use Everclear to make like a tincture.
Yeah, that's the stuff you use it for.
Yeah.
Degreasing engines and stuff.
Yep.
It's hardcore. It starts evaporating as soon as you pour it. Like it's really pure.
Oh yeah. That'll light you on fire.
Yeah, fire water.
Fire water, yep.
The Indian in me like blacks out. Well, thanks again for coming on. I really appreciate you coming on. Is there anything we wanted to get into before we go? I don't know how long we've been here now. It's been a good one. Oh, it's been a real good one. Let's see. I guess you brought so many strains. We could talk about everything you have here. We could talk about your bag of tricks. Yeah. And then where can they find you as well? Yeah.
Well, I guess Instagram's probably the easiest. Shelley Gangier is my email or my Instagram handle. That's probably the best.
And then what you got here? What do you want to show off?
Oh man, I got so many.
We have all these back here. We were talking about the Jack Herer.
Jack Herer. So that is one of my favorite Jack Herer cultivars. So that one's grown by a farmer out in Northern California, and he grows it all for the Jack Herer brand, which is pretty amazing.
And he's a guy that he pioneered a certain strain, right? I mean, is that his own strain?
Yes. Yeah. But he also wrote a book called The Emperor Wears No Clothes. It talks a lot about prohibition of cannabis and the history behind it. So it's they call it like the Bible of weed because it's really just a all-encompassing book about cannabis and what people probably need to know more than anything. Talks about the stigmas behind it.
Yeah, how it's used for like clothes and whatnot.
I think it was used in the war to make, rope.
Yeah, like the American flags were made out of it and whatnot.
Yeah. And then prohibition stopped a lot of that. So, there's a lot of different uses for hemp in general. And we don't have the processing facilities. I mean, we're getting there now. Finally, people are getting on board with that. But the equipment to manufacture hemp is pretty expensive, so that's been kind of a debilitating factor, I would say. But it's getting there.
I'd like that one day.
Yeah, it's such a renewable resource.
They make it, anytime you think of hemp clothing, you think of like burlap or like, some hippie, tie-dye looking thing.
Mm-hmm.
But they could be really good. It's a durable thing, but it could be like any other fabric if you do it right. I want to make like hemp suits or something like that, right?
I know a guy that's all he wears.
That's so fucking cool.
Yeah,
wow.
But I actually have a pair of Adidas from like the 80s that were made out of hemp
weed plants.
Yeah, and so they didn't make very many of them. I guess I don't know. I think they quit making them.
Mm-hmm.
I don't know if they brought them back or not, but yeah,
that's fucking cool.
They're still going.
So how do you feel about like where we are now as far as like legalities are concerned? Do you want legalization? I don't know.
I do. Yeah? It's kind of a double-edged sword, I feel like, because like it's great to be out in public and smoking weed and not have to fear somebody or coming up on behind you and getting in trouble or whatever.
Mm-hmm. If you have anything less than a couple ounces, the worst they'll do is throw it away.
Yeah. So I mean, I don't know where when that comfort level is gonna be there. I feel better, I think, being in Austin.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, Dallas is different.
Dallas is different.
Yeah.
And so that helps, but I think a lot of it is going to be people's mindset, the stigma, and just talking about it, making it more normal. My kids understand that this is medicine, and they get it. And they're not afraid of it, which I think is good, but also they're not into it.
Right. Yeah, that's the one thing is like, I don't know about, I don't know about smoking with my parents. I'd give them an edible and just like let them go do their thing,
Yeah.
Like I'd feel weird about that. Like if I knew they were in pain and like, something like that, like sitting down and smoking with them, like, I don't know. I think they'd be weird around me,
Yeah.
That's the same thing as like as my kid grows older, like I don't know what I'm going to do. I'm going to hope that like I'm going to advise them just to get through school, let your brain develop as much as possible before you bring too much any other outside factors into it, and
Yeah.
because there's a certain like I started 16 or something like that, and like I don't think that I don't think it affected my memory too much. I forget things, I guess like normal people,
Yeah,
a lot
I
of
think
things
I've always
affect
had that.
Yeah, I actually forget more things whenever I'm not smoking, but it might have affected me, it might have affected like my personality or something like that.
Yeah.
And a developing brain, like it is just a better idea to focus more on education at that time than like, rolling up after class or something like that, but that's what I'd say. Other than that, it's like respectfully, I don't know, just hide it from me. Do your best. If I find it, I'll fucking take it. I don't know. I always did my best just to keep it away. I hated to have, I didn't even like whenever my mom would look in my eyes, like, oh God, she could tell, she could tell I'm high. Like I hated that.
Well, I'm glad I have brown eyes, so people can't really see my pupils. So that helps, but yeah. But I just kind of want to be more of a reference for the younger generation to realize that like we do use this as medicine, and it really is about the journey. And it might not take you where you think you wanted to go, but it's kind of more following your instincts and the path that you're meant to be on.
Absolutely. It's a very spiritual thing. I love it.
It is.
Let's see anything. What else
I do have some gummies.
Oh, yeah?
So first we'll talk about this flower because this is probably my favorite flower.
Okay.
I actually was introduced to this when I went for my Ganji training in Humboldt. And this guy next to me had some of this whitethorn rose. And I was like, what is that? It was beautiful. I mean, I've never seen anything so gorgeous. And he had put it through the grinder. So it was all like just sparkling. You could see the trichomes just by looking at it. And these things are microscopic, right? So I'm like,
it's glistening.
Wow. And I like sparkly things. So I was intrigued. And then I smelled it, and it was just this beautiful bouquet that I've never smelled before in cannabis. And I was like, I need to try this. So we smoked it, and I was just hooked. And then I got to meet the farmer. His name is Johnny Casali. And it's Huckleberry Hill Farms. Beautiful, beautiful farm. I got to visit the farm, met Johnny and his partner Rose. Just awesome people like salt of the earth. You really like just fall in love with them. And the way that they care for this plant is just
I've been to
beautiful.
These farms. It's like a 24-hour thing. It's their whole life.
Oh,
like,
yeah.
Other than going out just to get off and do the normal things, like they night and day, like there's something happening. There's a part of it that needs tending to that can't just be like automated all the time, you know? And there's a lot of like involved. You have to know a little bit of everything to do this kind of stuff. Like you would think that's just growing a plant, but like you have to know irrigation and a certain type of water, and these plants eat a lot of stuff too. There's food for them. It's like having a person. I've been in these rooms and it feels like being in a room full of people. Whenever you're in a curing room or just like maybe an indoor grow, it feels like being in front of an audience. These things are alive, and they're moving all the time, and they grow really fucking fast. They smell great, really good at oxygen in there. Like it feels like breathing, weed as it's growing in a room like that. It's like different than just, I don't know, breathing in here or something,
Well, they're very, that's the other thing about, I think that people don't realize is, people like Johnny who grow this plant with such care, they're also very conscientious of the environment. So they're, making sure they conserve water. They actually do fish farming. So they have a pond catchment system, and the poop from the fish is like fertilizer that they're able to use to fertilize their plants.
That's amazing.
It's like this just enclosed ecosystem. It's pretty cool.
You see the fish like swimming around in there?
When I went, the pond was a little foggy, but I couldn't really see them. Some people were fishing.
Wow.
Yeah.
Weed fish.
And they incorporate a lot of other things into, what they do. They have tours. They do yoga stuff out there, sound baths. Rose does a beautiful sound bath. I've actually had the honor of getting to experience a sound bath with her, and it's just like the most peaceful, spiritual experience. It's really beautiful.
So what is that? You sit and there's like a certain, like they put on like chimes or something like that.
It's like, have you seen those sound bowls? They're like really big quartz
bowls. And then you like
that. And you like drum them around the circle. Yeah, and it makes just like a different sound for each one. And she'll usually have a gong, and it just kind of puts you in a trance almost. And it's very eye-opening.
Wow.
Yeah.
That's cool. Okay, so they
grew this flower. One? This one.
Oh, this one right here.
This one. This is the white thorn rose. So I got to try this. And I just really kind of formed a friendship with them, and I've been out to visit them multiple times. And just, they support me. I support them. I promote their, I talk about their stuff. So then I wrote about Johnny and his farm and his story. His parents were farmers. They grew cannabis when it was not legal. And Johnny grew it as well because that's what he learned to do from his parents. But long story short, he went to jail for this for a long time. While he was in jail, his parents passed away. When he got out, he had nothing, and he got his homestead back. He got, eventually became a licensed cannabis grower in the state of California. With the help of all of the people in the community.
The weed?
Oh, you want this one?
Yeah, please.
Yeah, no, it's just really
white
pretty.
White thorn rose, huckleberry. That's so cool. And so, that's a story I hear about all the time. It's unfortunate, the first ones that had to go through all that. That's the sacrifices they made was, but they made that. It helped, that paved the road for where we are now.
Yeah.
I mean, it's unfortunate. but I'm glad they're out now. Look at that. It's purple. They leave some of the leaves in there.
I know.
I love that. So the way the purple comes out, what is it? Is it light? Or the wind? I think that they say that one of the fans
I think
are
it's
hitting
more
it.
related to the light, but
yeah.
not. But
yes, I would love to smoke this one and that Jack.
Yes.
Oh man, we got to get those.
Definitely.
Couple of those. What others are your favorites here?
Well, probably the Jack Herrera. This is grown by my friend. She grows a good strawberry gorilla.
Mm-hmm.
What else is over there?
Oh man, let's see.
The papaya. There's a papaya. Yeah, that stuff's. It's nice and meaty. I feel like it's real. It's like rotten fruit.
Yeah. Oh man,
it's delicious. Really great for daytime. I've had a lot of good, fun times with my girlfriends, just smoking that, dancing.
Dancing.
Yeah. Always a good time. But what I love too is just how all the different ways we can consume the plant. It's very versatile. So then my friend makes a hash out of the whitethorn rose flower. And then the hash itself is just, hash to me is the truest, most perfect representation of the plant. It's my favorite.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Is that like your favorite thing to do, is like making it?
Well, I don't make it here in Texas. I go out of state to make
right. Well, I mean, so it's like top to bottom. I mean, I've taken part in like a little bit of every process. I mean, I like trimming is my favorite.
Yeah.
Yeah. Like
I can get you all kinds of jobs in California trimming.
Absolutely. Yeah. I did
if
that.
If you ever want to trim,
yeah,
you can go trim and you'll get free weed.
Yeah, pretty much. They'll pay you. Yeah. They'll just give you a bunch, a whole pillow fucking full of it. Because I'll just sit down and watch a movie and just go through pounds and pounds. It's really fun making the weed look all pretty.
That's the dental hygienist to me, like the little detail stuff.
Yeah, because you got to be careful with it. You can't break it apart too much, and you got to get the right cut going. And each of them are so different.
Yeah.
Fuck yeah. Well, thanks again for coming through and sharing all this with us.
Yeah.
So they can find you, Shelley Peebles, and at Fat Nugs.
Fat Nugs Magazine.
Nugs Magazine. Go check them out. And thanks again for coming by.
Thanks for having me.
All righty. This has been the Hight Today Show. You guys have a good one. Bye-bye.